Hi, I'm Vincent-Henri Peuch from ECMWF, and I'm joined with my colleague Carlo Buontempo to speak about the activities that we've done in Europe in the context of the Copernicus program, investigating the links between COVID-19, air quality, and climate. We've been looking at a number of questions, investigating the links between air pollution and COVID. I won't have time today to speak about the investigation of long-term and short-term exposure to the development of the disease, or whether particulate matter can play a role as a vector for the virus. I will focus my talk on what we've seen regarding changes in emissions and concentrations for key pollutants during lockdown measures, which has also consequences in terms of reducing morbidity and mortality due to air pollution. So you've probably all seen such images of showing before and after measures of lockdown have been taken. These images have been largely taken from Sentinel-5 precursor, tropomi, showing NO2, which is a very convenient pollutant having a short lifetime. And what you can see on this plot is a comparison of a month's worth of data comparing 2019 and 2020 with a quite substantial decrease in the amount of NO2, which is a pollutant which is mostly emitted by road transport. There was another great thing for Earth observation, I think, which is that we could actually show that this information provided by Sentinel-5 precursor is actually, which is vertically integrated columns of NO2, is actually matching very well what we see from the ground in the form of the analysis of surface observations. And what you can see here is a time series comparison of the total column measured by the satellite in red and the surface analysis in black from our CAMS system from the beginning of February until the end of April. And what you can see, the day-to-day variations are very much in sync and highly correlated, which really means that satellite observations can be used in this analysis. And I think this is fairly new in our domain to see that the skill of this instrument is now so good that we can have such comparisons. There have been a lot of things in the media, in press, looking at these effects, but we have to be very cautious that, of course, as you all know, the concentration of pollutant at the surface do not only change with emissions, but they change also with weather. And what is plotted here is the same time series, except for Madrid. And below, you have the time series for the height of the planetary boundary layer and the wind speed. And what you can see is the concentrations of NO2 at the surface and the two weather parameters that we have extracted are very well anti-correlated. You can see that on a synoptic scale, when the planetary boundary layer is high or the wind speed is high, concentrations are low because mixing is very substantial, and vice versa. What you can see also is that with going towards summer, the PBL height is going up, so this is a green curve, and consequently, the concentrations at the surface of NO2 are going down. So there is a big scope for confusion between the signature of COVID measures and the effect simply of weather at synoptic or seasonal timescales. So in order to study these questions, we've opened a mini site with the web address here. And what we do is that we provide a number of complementary ways to look at these changes. We offer the possibility to look at climatological anomalies, so comparing 2020 with a few previous years, as you can see on the time series which is there for Turin. We also provide some information in the form of comparing the analysis with the control run, so in technical terms, data assimilation increments. So that is telling us what observations tell us that is not in business as usual models. And finally, we've been doing also some scenario runs. So with the help of the Barcelona Supercomputing Center, in that case, we have estimated changes in emissions. Here you have an example with a bar chart regarding road transport. You can see that looking at European countries, reduction have varied between something like minus 20% only to about 80%. So it's very important to do a detailed assessment based on mobility as provided, for instance, by Google or by TomTom. And then we run models to compute the differences. And finally, we've been working very closely with the WMO Global Atmosphere Watch community. And the great news is that there was over 100 teams that responded to a questionnaire, meaning that the community is extremely active and looking in all these questions. Let me give the floor now to my colleague, Carlo.
Hello everyone. I'm Carlo Buontempo, and I'm the director of the Copernicus Climate Change Service at ECNWF. And I will be talking about one specific question related to COVID today, which is the link between environmental condition, and especially temperature and humidity, and the outbreak of COVID-19. So specific environmental conditions are more or less conducive to the outbreak. So this is one of the things we have done as part of the Copernicus Climate Change Service, and has been to put together an application that links to the data we have in the catalog. So the centerpiece of the architecture of the Copernicus Climate Change Service is the so-called Climate Data Store that provide standardized access to reanalysis data, as well as observation from satellite, projection from climate model, and seasonal predictions. In this case, what you see on this map is a distribution of temperature in the last few months. So this is for the month of May. And what's on the plot at the moment is the temperature field. And you see a region with different color, and we use a color scale that is linked to early studies suggesting that specific interval in temperature and humidity are more conducive to the outbreak of coronaviruses. So there is quite a body of literature linking specific environmental condition to transmission of coronaviruses. For this specific coronavirus, which is quite new, we don't know exactly how susceptible to this temperature and humidity fluctuation the transmission will be. And that's why we put together this application. So the red dots represent the outbreak in terms of number of fatalities per country, while the color represent different environmental conditions. Once you click on a specific dot, you get the time evolution of both the mortality and the temperature and humidity. And what you see on the plot on the right is exactly that evolution. The white band, which for temperature is between 5 and 11 degrees Celsius, and for humidity in green and yellow is between 3 and 6 grams per kilogram, the white bands are the regions where, according to some preliminary studies, the transmission may be favored. As you can see in the map, though, there are significant outbreaks outside of this region, meaning that at the best of our knowledge at the moment, the environmental condition may slow down the intensity, but doesn't actually manage to stop it altogether. If you're interested in the app, you can play with it yourself by following the URL you see on the right. Next slide, please. And as any application on the Climate Data Store, the application comes with a description which links to the relevant documentation, so you can see how it was put together and what is the theoretical background for this app. And it comes with the original piece of source code, so you can reproduce every single plot, every single result, and rerun it yourself, or alter what we have done if you think you can do better, or you can modify things in a way that is interesting. The important point I want to stress here is that we don't actually know whether environmental conditions will be a major driver or not. We know they are likely to have an impact, and these tools allow health experts, national authorities, and international organizations to monitor more easily the connection between these variables and the outbreak. So it's really a way of operationalizing the climate information to the benefit of a larger group of people. Thank you.